Sports Live with a evening live stream. We're doing the college basketball picks this week, and this is the tournament edition for men's college basketball. And we will be looking at the Southeastern Conference men's tournament bracket, and then from that we will look at the ACC or Atlantic Coastal Conference. We'll go over before we do the bracket stuff, I'm going to go over the Associated Press top 25 poll for the men. And then after that, we'll get into the brackets and I'll explain how they work. Once I've explained how they work, we will then make our predictions based off of who we think is going to win the games. Again, thank you for joining me on Sports Live Media. I am broadcasting live for this weekly college basketball live stream. Anyway, let's get into this. Can y'all hear me out there in YouTube land? Anyway, we are going to go over the AP poll, the men's basketball top 25 poll, before we go any further with this. For the AP poll top 25, number 1, Duke. Number 2, Houston. Number 3, Auburn. Number 4, Florida. Number 5, Alabama. Number 6, St. John's. Number 7, Michigan State. Number 8, Tennessee. Number 9, Texas Tech. Number 10, Clemson. Number 11, Maryland. Number 12, Iowa State. Number 13, Louisville. Number 14, Texas A&M. Number 15, Kentucky. Number 16, Memphis. Number 17, BYU or Brigham Young University. Number 18, Wisconsin. Number 19, St. Mary's. Number 20, Purdue. Number 21, Missouri. Number 22, Michigan. Number 23, Oregon. Number 24, Illinois. And number 25, Marquette. That is your top 25 for the Associated Press AP poll for the men's college basketball. Now, this is the Conference Tourney edition, and we're going to start with the Southeastern Conference. It looks like here the first round will take place Wednesday, March 12th. Second round games will take place March 13th. Quarterfinals will be March 14th, which is Friday. The semifinals will be March 15th. And the championship matchup will be March 16th. So let's look and see who is in this first, and we'll go from that. We're not making picks just yet. But in the first round, you've got South Carolina versus Arkansas. And the winner of that game will play Ole Miss. You have Texas versus Vanderbilt, and the winner of that game will play Texas A&M. You have LSU will be playing Mississippi State, and the winner of that game will be playing Missouri. Then you have Oklahoma versus Georgia, and the winner of that game will play Kentucky. So now, you have South Carolina playing Arkansas. The winner of that will play Ole Miss, and the winner of that game will play Auburn. Then, with Texas and Vanderbilt, the winner of that game will play Texas A&M, and the winner of that game will play Tennessee. Then you have LSU will be playing Mississippi State, as mentioned earlier. The winner of that game will play Missouri, and the winner of that game will play Florida. So after that, then you will have the semifinals, which will be the winner of whoever's playing Auburn versus the winner of whoever's playing Tennessee. And then you'll have, in the other semifinal, the winner of who plays Florida versus the winner of who plays Alabama. Once those semifinals are complete, then that will be your championship game as shown by this bracket here. And this line right here represents who our champion is going to be. So now, before moving on to the ACC, let's just make our picks right now who we think is going to win this. And it doesn't matter if you have any knowledge at all of these teams. So, with that being said, can y'all hear me out there in YouTube land? Anyway, first game we've got will be South Carolina or Arkansas. South Carolina or Arkansas, who do y'all have in winning the game? Okay, cool. Anyway, we're making the picks now. So, South Carolina or Arkansas, who do you have? Okay, I have one vote for Arkansas. I have one vote for South Carolina. And in this one, I'm going Arkansas for the tiebreaker, unless somebody else has another vote. So it looks like it'll be Arkansas on that one. All right. So next game we have will be Texas versus Vanderbilt. Texas versus Vanderbilt. Who do you have? That's the next game we're looking at. It's Texas versus Vanderbilt. Texas or Vanderbilt? Anybody want to cast a vote? Okay, I have 2 for Vanderbilt. You know what? I'm going to go for, Texas on that one. But since Vanderbilt has 2 votes to 1, Vanderbilt is who we will be going with on this one. So Vanderbilt over Texas. Moving on to the next game. We have LSU versus Mississippi State. LSU or Mississippi State? Who do we have in winning that one? LSU or Mississippi State? Keep in mind, these rankings are not national rankings. These are just what these teams were seeded based off of how they performed within their conference when they played each other in conference play during the regular season. All right, I have 1 vote for LSU. I have 1 vote for Mississippi State. And I get to cast a tie-breaking vote. So, looks like it'll be Mississippi State. That's who I'm going with on that one. Next game we have will be Oklahoma or Georgia. Oklahoma or Georgia? Who do we have in winning that one? Oklahoma or Georgia? I have 1 vote for Georgia. Anybody else wish to vote on Oklahoma versus Georgia? Okay, I've got 3 votes for Georgia. So that's who we will go with in that one. Oklahoma loses to Georgia, and we have Georgia moving on. Okay, so next game we will look at, we'll start the second round. We have Georgia versus Kentucky. Georgia versus Kentucky. Who do you have? We'll start with this one here. Georgia versus Kentucky. I haven't wrote it down yet, but I promise you I will. Georgia versus Kentucky. Who do we have? And if you want Georgia again, you'll have to say Georgia again. You can't just use the previous vote. You have to actually type in who you want. Okay, I've got 1 vote for Kentucky. Let's see. I've got 1 vote for Georgia. I think in this one, I'm going to have to go with my gut feeling on that one, and I'm going to go Kentucky. Kentucky beats Georgia on that one because Kentucky always beats Georgia when they play each other. So we'll go with that. Next game is going to be Mississippi State versus Missouri. Mississippi State or Missouri? Who do we have? Be this one right here. Mississippi State or Missouri? I have 1 vote for Missouri. Mississippi State or Missouri? Okay. Since nobody else is voting, I'm going to go Missouri. So we've got 2 votes for Missouri, unless we have another vote. Okay, it looks like we're going to go Missouri on that one. Nobody else cast their vote. So moving on to the next game, we have Texas or Texas A&M. Texas or Texas A&M. Who do we have? Texas or Texas A&M? I have 1 vote for Texas. Anybody else want to cast a vote before I cast mine? Since nobody else is going to vote, I'm going to go Texas beating Texas A&M. All right, moving on to the next game, we have Arkansas or Ole Miss. Arkansas or Ole Miss. Arkansas or Ole Miss. Who do you have for voting? Okay, I have one vote for Ole Miss. Anybody else want to cast theirs before I give mine? All right, it looks like nobody else is voting, so we've got 2 votes for Ole Miss. We're going to have Ole Miss beating Texas. So next game we have is going to be in the quarterfinals now, and that will be Ole Miss versus Auburn. Ole Miss versus Auburn. Who do we have? And on this one, this is going to be a clear vote for me, so I know who I'm already going to vote for, but I want to see. Okay, it looks like I got 2 votes for Auburn. Unless anybody else has another vote they wish to cast, we will be going for Auburn on that one. All right. Moving on, we have Texas versus Tennessee. Texas versus Tennessee. Who do we have? Texas or Tennessee? I have 1 vote for Tennessee. I have 1 vote for Texas. So is there a tie? Anyone else want to break the tie? Because if there's a tie, then I can break the tie or I can keep my original vote. So right now we have 1 vote for Texas and 1 vote for Tennessee. And in this situation, I think I'm actually going to change my vote, and I'm going to go Tennessee to break the tie. So we're going to have Tennessee beating Texas. All right, next game we have will be Missouri or Florida. Missouri or Florida. Missouri or Florida. Who do we have? It looks like we're in agreement there. I have 2 votes for Florida. So Florida is who we're going to have. Now, let's move on to the next game, which will be Kentucky versus Alabama. Kentucky or Alabama. Sorry about that. Kentucky or Alabama. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to drop it. There we go. Okay, it looks like we have 2 votes for Alabama, and so we're going to have Alabama in that one. All right, now we're going to look at this one, and this one is going to be Alabama versus Florida. Alabama versus Florida. Who do we have for this one? Alabama or Florida. Okay, looks like I got 2 votes for Alabama. So we got Alabama versus Florida. And I'm sorry about the blurriness. Let me zoom out for a second. There we go. Next game we have will be Tennessee versus Auburn. Tennessee versus Auburn. Who do we have in this game here? Tennessee versus Auburn. Who do we have? Okay, we have 2 votes for Auburn, so Auburn will be who we go with. So now, for this game here, which is the championship game, I didn't exactly plan it like this, but it makes perfect sense. Let me zoom out again. There we go. We have Alabama versus Auburn for the conference championship. Alabama or Auburn for the conference championship. Who do we have? I have 1 vote for Auburn and 1 vote for Alabama, and there is a tie. I'm going to switch my vote again, and I'm going to go Auburn beating Alabama for the conference championship. So, with that being said, let's review what we have so far for the Southeastern Conference tournament. We have Arkansas beating South Carolina. We have Texas beating Vanderbilt. We have Mississippi State beating LSU. We have Oklahoma beating Georgia. We have Oklahoma versus Kentucky, and we have Kentucky winning that one. We have Mississippi State versus Missouri, and we have Missouri winning that one. We have Texas versus Texas A&M, and we have Texas winning that one. We have Arkansas versus to Ole Miss, and Ole Miss wins that one. For the Ole Miss Auburn game, we have Auburn winning that one. For the Texas versus Tennessee game, we have Texas winning that one. We have in the Missouri versus Mississippi State, we had Missouri. Then we had Missouri versus Florida, and Florida winning that one. And then it was Oklahoma beating Georgia, Kentucky beating Georgia, and then Alabama beating Kentucky. And then for the, we had Auburn versus Tennessee, Alabama versus Florida. And then for the championship game, we have Alabama versus Auburn, with Auburn winning the Southeastern Conference Championship. So now we will move to the ACC Conference Tournament. This is the bracket from afar. So let me explain how that works. According to this, the first round game will start tomorrow, March 11th. Second round will be Wednesday, March 12th. The quarterfinals will be March 13th. The semifinals will be March 14th. And the championship game will be Saturday, March 15th. So, in the first round, we will have Notre Dame versus Pittsburgh, Virginia Tech versus. Let me go through this the right way. We will have Notre Dame versus Pittsburgh, and the winner of that game will play North Carolina. We will have Virginia Tech playing California, and the winner of that game will play Stanford. We have Florida State playing Syracuse, and the winner of that game will play SMU. Other games include Georgia Tech versus Virginia, and so on and so forth. Once you get to the Georgia Tech-Virginia game, the winner of that game will play Duke. When you have the winner of Notre Dame versus Pitt playing the winner of North Carolina, the winner of that game will play Wake Forest. You'll have Virginia Tech and California playing each other, and the winner of that one will play Stanford, with the winner of that game playing Louisville. Then you'll have Florida State playing Syracuse. The winner of that game will play SMU, and the winner of that game will play Clemson. And then you have the semifinals, and the final. So now that we've gone through that kind of process, let's just make our picks on who we think is going to win the games for the ACC. First off, you have Notre Dame versus Pittsburgh. Notre Dame versus Pittsburgh. Who do we have in that one? Notre Dame or Pittsburgh? I'm sorry about the blurriness. I know it's annoying, and I'm trying to work through that. So we'll just do it this way. Yeah, Notre Dame versus Pittsburgh. I have 2 votes for Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh will play North Carolina. All right, so the next game we have will be Virginia Tech versus California. Virginia Tech versus California, and the winner of that game will play Stanford. So Virginia Tech or California? Virginia Tech or California? Who do we have? Okay, I have 2 votes for Virginia. We'll go with that. For West Virginia. Or Virginia Tech, I'm sorry. Next game we will have is Florida State versus Syracuse. The winner of that game will play Southern Methodist University or SMU. So, Florida State or Syracuse? Florida State or Syracuse? Okay, I have 2 votes for Florida State. So we'll move on from that. We'll start with the top here. We have... Hang on. I'm sorry about this blurriness. I don't know what's going on with it, but we're going to make it work. Okay, we have... This next game will be Georgia Tech versus Virginia. Georgia Tech versus Virginia. Who do we have? Georgia Tech versus Virginia. Regular Virginia. Yeah, Georgia Tech versus Virginia. And I have 2 votes for Virginia. So we'll go with Virginia on that one. So Virginia will play Duke. All right, next game, we have Pittsburgh versus North Carolina. Pittsburgh or North Carolina? Who do we have? Pittsburgh or North Carolina? Okay, I have 2 votes for North Carolina, so we will move with that. We'll go with that, and that'll end up being Wake Forest versus North Carolina. We'll get to that shortly, but we're moving on to the next game. We have Virginia Tech versus Stanford. Virginia Tech or Stanford? Virginia Tech or Stanford? And I have 2 votes for Stanford, so we will have Stanford moving on to play Louisville. Next game we have is Florida State versus SMU. Florida State or Southern Methodist University? And the winner of that game will play Clemson. So, Florida State or SMU? I have 2 votes for Florida State. So, that'll be Clemson versus Florida State. And we'll start with that for the next game. Clemson or Florida State? Clemson or Florida State? Okay, Clemson or Florida State? Did you already cast your vote? I didn't see if you did. Okay. All right, so we got Clemson and Florida State, and we got 2 votes for Florida State. So, yeah, we'll go with that. We'll move on to the next one. We have Louisville versus Stanford. Louisville or Stanford? Yeah, Louisville or Stanford? Okay, I've got 2 votes for Stanford, so it's going to be Stanford versus Florida State. Stanford versus Florida State in the semifinals. Moving on to the next game, we have what was it? We have Wake Forest or North Carolina. Wake Forest or North Carolina? Wake Forest or North Carolina? Who do I pick? Okay, we got 2 votes for North Carolina. So next we will have Duke versus Virginia. Duke versus Virginia. Be this top game up here on the quarterfinals. Okay, I got 2 votes for Virginia. So, okay, so we're going to go with that. So, in the semifinal matchup, we have Virginia versus North Carolina. Virginia versus North Carolina. Who do we have? Okay, 2 votes for North Carolina. Okay, so we'll now move on from that to what was it? Stanford versus Stanford versus who do we have? Stanford versus Clemson. Actually, Stanford versus Clemson. Or I'm sorry, Stanford versus Florida State. Stanford versus Florida State. I apologize. That's Stanford versus Florida State. For this one here. Okay, I have Florida State beating North Carolina for the, going to the championship game. So, okay, so we have Florida State and North Carolina, and we've got Florida State winning it all. So, just to review real quick, in the game, Notre Dame versus Pittsburgh, we have Pittsburgh going to play North Carolina. In the game, Virginia Tech versus California, we have Virginia Tech versus Stanford. In the game, Florida State versus Syracuse, who plays SMU, we have Florida State. Then we have Florida State playing Stanford, and we have Florida State winning that one over Louisville. We have Wake Forest versus North Carolina, and we had North Carolina. Then we had Duke versus Virginia. We had Virginia. In the Virginia versus North Carolina, we had North Carolina. And in the Florida State, we had North Carolina versus Florida State for the conference championship, and we have Florida State winning the conference championship. So that does it for the review for the men and the women's Southeastern Conference tournament and the ACC conference tournament. We'll review one last time the AP poll, top 25 men's basketball poll. And I'll try to point them out as I go down the list. Number 1, Duke. Number 2, Houston. Number 3, Auburn. Number 4, Florida. Number 5, Alabama. Number 6, St. John's. Number 7, Michigan State. Number 8, Tennessee. Number 9, Texas Tech. Number 10, Clemson. Number 11, Maryland. Number 12, Iowa State. Number 13, Louisville. Number 14, Texas A&M. Number 15, Kentucky. Number 16, Memphis. Number 17, BYU. Number 18, Wisconsin. Number 19, St. Mary's. Number 20, Purdue. Number 21, Missouri. Number 22, Michigan. Number 23, Oregon. Number 24, Illinois. Number 25, Marquette. Next week, we will resume this bracket picking, but it's going to be a much larger scale of things with the way we're going to do the brackets. We will do the national championship tournament, which involves 68 total teams within the men's Division I basketball, and we'll do the same thing for the women. We're also going to look at the next 32 after that, and we will do bracket picking for the men's NIT, or the National Invitational Tournament, and the women's National Invitational Tournament. So keep in mind, the first ones we'll do will be the big tournament with the 68 teams for both the men and the women, and that one is the one to determine the Division I NCAA National Championship. We will do bracket picks off of that once they've completed Selection Sunday, and then we'll do we'll do a really long live stream going over all of those games. Once we do the Division I bracket, we will do the men NIT, or National Invitational Tournament, which will be your next 32 teams, and the same thing for the women. That live stream will take place at some point next week before the basketball games begin within those said tournaments. So, with that information, I know that's a lot of information overload, but just telling you how we're going to do things going forward. Thank you again for tuning in to this live stream when we're making our basketball picks for the Southeastern Conference and the Atlantic Coastal Conference, or ACC for college basketball in the men's area. If you will, please hit the like button, please hit the subscribe button, please hit the notification bell so you can be made aware of when I am doing these special live streams, when I have sports action videos, when I have sports education videos, again, when I broadcast live, or when I have breaking news in the sports world. If you wish to subscribe, there are a couple ways you can do it. Going on the YouTube website, you go to www.youtube.com, the slash symbol, the at symbol, SPORTSLOV. If you want to make it easier, go to the YouTube search tab, type in Bob Amin. That would be BOBAMIN. You'll know it's me because I have Sports Live Media burned onto a basketball as my avatar. You can also follow me on Twitter X, and my handle is at BobAmin16. That is the at symbol, BOBAMIN16 for Twitter X. I thank you very much for tuning in to this broadcast today. And do any of y'all have any questions or comments? If not, I'm Bob Amin and signing off, and I will see you next time. Thank you very much for joining me today.